And I will be the person that tries to coordinate these opposition forces.
Fourth and last part of the interview with Salome Zourabichvili, 5th President of Georgia. Earlier we covered the 100 days of protest, relation with EU and US, and now it's time to dig a bit more into the role of the Georgian youngsters and the October 2025 elections. Okay, let's go back to the protest day. This wave of protest started, as we said at the beginning, nearly a year ago with the introduction of this foreign agent law, and we got to know that in the past week the parliament is discussing more penalties.
It started in 23 because we had the first Russian law with massive demonstrations, which allowed us to get the candidate status. And then after that, the ruling party had said that they would never reintroduce this law, that it was finished. They have reintroduced it in 24, spring of 24. That's when we had the second round of demonstrations, and then the third round after the elections and after the November decision. So we have been living in demonstrations.
Due to the fact that there are here in Georgia many NGOs that are actually funded from other countries, don't you think that some kind of regulation is necessary?
I think there were plenty of regulations. This idea, the lack of transparency, if there is something that is not transparent, it is the decisions of the ruling party. It is the laws that are taken to allow Mr. Ivanishvili to bring his offshore assets to the country. That is what is not transparent. Whereas the funding by the European Union or by USAID, it was not mostly the NGOs, unfortunately, because the USAID has been largely financing the government programs, education, the reconstruction of Georgian schools, health system, Lugar Center, and many health programs that have helped Georgia to overcome many pandemics, and the AIDS and hepatitis. All these programs were completely funded by USAID, and the development of the Georgian agriculture together with the Georgian authorities, they were the main beneficiaries of this foreign aid, as well as European programs. So that's, again, it's a propaganda picture that at their time the Russians used to close down the NGOs and the media in Russia. So it's the same system that is used here to try to convince the population and the outside world that these NGOs were financed by the foreigners in order to destabilize the country, which is nothing to do with the reality and the real picture.
Of course, in the streets during the protest there are not only youngsters, but many are actually youngsters. And don't you think that this crisis created some generational divide? Because I realized that many young Georgians have degrees from abroad, from other countries, US, Europe, and I noticed that some of them are considering, already took the decision to actually leave the country. Aren't you afraid that Georgia is losing its, let's say, most educated generation?
I think that would be the hope of the ruling party, to push through repression these people to leave the country, which are really the most vivid part, the most creative part, because it concerns people that are in jail now, are representatives of the theater, the movies industry, the art scene of Georgia. So there are people that are not at all political, what they say, radicals. They are more civil liberties people that are in the... So, of course, they are a very important part of the Georgian nation's creativity and future, because they are the younger part. And yes, there are older people that are also protesting. Maybe they are more fearful of the effects I mean, young people tend to disregard the pressure, the repression, the attacks on the streets or on the side streets, whereas older people, first of all, don't have the money to pay the fines, are less organized to find the lawyers that will defend them, and so on. So it's two different approaches to this type of protests. But I don't think that there is a divide in the society along those lines. But clearly the hope, the type of ideal Georgia that the ruling party would like to see is a Georgia that would become a gray zone with no controls on many of the traffics. I mean, the offshore law is that would be a circumvention place for sanctions, because that's a revenue, and we see that there are many segments in which that is working already. Less young people, because they are critical and they are a pain in the ass. They are preventing the ruling party of doing whatever they want and they like. And they would be very glad to receive here Russians that are very glad to live in an autocracy that is a bit less autocratic than Russia, and where they are not thrown into the army. And it's warmer here, and they don't ask anything. They don't have political positions. Among them, there are probably some that are in favor of Putin and maybe working for some of but not all of them. They're quite neutral, but they are also very easy to control population for the authorities.
So last question. So the oppositions, we see that they are united when it comes to the protest, but are they also preparing for the local elections that you will hold this year? And in particular, could you be the person, the one who brings them together?
I have been before the last elections, and before that even, and I will be the person that tries to coordinate these opposition forces, whether they are political parties, whether they are civil groups and protesting groups, because now the Georgian political scene is much more diverse than what it was before the elections. I think that everybody will agree that we have to prepare, and that has been the plan that I publicly proposed, to start preparing now, both the conditions for which we would go to elections, because if the ruling party, without any mediation from outside, without any support, does not change anything in the main issues that were at stake for the elections, and the elections do not make sense. So there has to be some form of negotiations, but with a third-party mediator, to set the minimal conditions that would ensure free and fair elections. And clearly those elections, of course, have to be parliament and local at the same time, because to have just local elections in the unchanged environment would not mean anything, and most probably it's not even a question for the political parties, because the voters would not go to vote.
That's it for now from Salome Zourabichvili. I hope this interview gave you a deeper understanding of the ongoing events from the words of one of the protagonists of Georgian political life. Don't forget to follow this channel, like, share, comment with your opinions, and keep in touch to stay up closer.